I am going to work on my painting, and I'm gonna rework the face. Now, the face might look okay right now, and it does, it looks decent, but I don't like it. And I think it's competing with the other aspects of the painting. So I am conveniently blocking the moving boxes in the background with my palette, but it works because you can see the colors on my palette. I didn't put them all down actually, so let me do that. So I will do my best to read off all the colors I have. Viridian, this weird off-brand green. It's the Hobby Lobby brand, it's called Olive Green. Burnt Sienna, Cad Orange, Phthalo Blue, Ivory Black, Cad Yellow, Raw Umber, Yellow Ochre, I think that is Pale Rose Blush, yep. This sort of weird mixture, I just got the leftover titanium white I had in my palette and I just mixed it in with some leftover stuff I had in my palette, so it made this like light pink or whatever. And then pure titanium white. Skin on the face, and I'm gonna record it. And I think I'm gonna do some voiceover so I can explain to you my thoughts while I'm reworking the face, because it might be hard for people to understand when the face looks like a good painted face. It can be hard to understand why I'm changing it, where I'm changing it, and the purpose behind it. So I'm gonna record it and then I'm gonna do a voiceover so you can understand what I'm changing, and you'll see what I mean, and hopefully by the end of it I improved it and I didn't ruin it. Alright, I got all the colors in my palette now. I'm not gonna use all these for the face, but I might pop around to the background, so I want to have all my colors on, especially on my greens. So here's an example of what my palette looks like if you were looking top down. So you can see all the colors I listed beforehand, and if you can tell, I put all of my warmer colors to the top left with my titanium white, and I put my cooler colors towards the right hand side of the palette. And then on the bottom left, I've included some common mixes that I do from these colors on my palettes, primarily using yellow ochre. I really like that as a starting place, primarily for flesh tones. You can see under each primary color, I included the mix I would typically make below that. For example, my titanium white and my yellow ochre, I would usually make a lighter yellow from that, and then following that, I would add titanium white to that to make a lighter mixture. And that follows the same procedure throughout all of them. For example, the yellow ochre and the alizarin crimson, I would mix that together and then add titanium white to that to give me a really nice pink. So when I'm making changes to this face, and I've included the colors here again on the screen, I'm basically just trying to develop this layer, not changing the shape of her nose or pushing in her forehead, at least not in a way that would be totally noticeable. I'm just changing some of the colors in her face. So you may notice in her forehead area, it's very dark in value and it's also very orange, and you can't quite tell in the video, but there's sort of a pinkish undertone to everything in her face and her arms. It's almost like a salmon pink color, and so I'm really trying to remove that with this layer and bring more of a sort of yellow neutral feel to it. And you'll see later in the video that I lighten up that forehead and I also lighten up her nose. And then when I'm painting in this neck, I am using a combination of yellow ochre, raw umber, burnt umber, and some cad orange to keep it warm. I tend to be desaturated when I apply my layers, so I'm trying to be mindful of adding back in that warmth with my cad orange and my cad yellow. Typically, I stayed away from it because those colors are so bright on the palette, and it scared me a little bit because I didn't want to overpower my mixture. But if you just use tiny amounts at a time, it can really make a difference in your flesh tones, and it can keep your figures feeling alive and like their skin isn't drained and they just really pop out of the painting. So here it's really evident that her cheek was really pink. And you can see when I'm adding in this light yellow mixture, this is probably yellow ochre, titanium white, and maybe a little bit of raw umber to neutralize it. I'm applying this all over the face, and then I will blend it into the darker values I put in right on her jawline, right under her chin. And then I'll blend that upwards towards her cheek and her cheekbone, where I'll put in some more lighter values where the light hits her cheek. So here I'm using a mixture of titanium white, a little bit of yellow ochre, and a little bit of pale rose blush, and that's so the mixture isn't too yellow. And then you can really see I'm lightening up the shadow under her eyebrow, and just in a moment I'm going to start lightening up her forehead. Usually how I'll approach painting a section over is I will start scumbling and I will put in a really light value and I'll put in the darker value. For instance, it was the light value in the front of her forehead and then the darker value towards the end of her eyebrow. And then I had a mid-tone in between that and then I mix them all together. And then I'll usually add in some more tones in between those three to create form. And so you aren't just blending a light and a dark together, you're blending in all of these different colors together to create form. So you can see in this new layer right here, some of that orange, salmon, pinky color starting to go away in her forehead, and now it's being replaced by a more natural, neutral, yellow, sort of cream tone. Another strategy for repainting this top part of the head is I painted all the shadows that the brow ridge is creating on the upper eyelid and in her temple area, so I can then place the colors of the eyebrow on top of that, almost like I am sculpting up the form of the brow ridge first and the shadow on her temple and the form of her forehead first before I finally place her eyebrow on top of that. And I blend all of it together to create a really nice soft form and not a really dark eyebrow that looks cartoony or purposefully drawn on or unrealistic. Next, I decided to do another layer on her hair with a really dark mixture of raw umber and maybe some burnt umber in there too. Doing this allows me to cut into her face if I want to edit the silhouette of her nose or change the shape of her lips. I can do that, and I can also soften the edges in between her hair and her face, which is very helpful for communicating form and giving a very ideal, beautiful look to her face. Creating soft edges, more importantly, also communicates the turning of her form. So we're looking at her from her profile and we want to be convinced that she is turning in space. So behind what I've painted is more of her. So her chin is turning. You can feel like you can run her finger across her nose and you will feel the other side of her nose. That is ultimately the goal of creating these soft edges. Here you can see me showing off my alizarin crimson, which I thought I forgot in the beginning of the video, but I didn't. And it was really helpful for creating this shadow right here on her neck. I wanted this shadow to be darker in value, but I didn't want it to lose its saturation and become this sort of muted brown. So I added in some yellow ochre, raw umber, and burnt umber, and this alizarin crimson to bring back the warmth into the brown instead of it being a very desaturated, muddy brown. So that's it for the face, and now we're going to transition over to her arms. Originally, my plan was to just add more shadow and some more warmth to the bottom part of her arm, but I got a little carried away and I kept seeing more things that I wanted to change and add, and then I decided to redo the hands and just do another layer. So it sort of just developed into this whole project of doing a completely new layer on both arms, the whole arm and that little section right there. So now I'm starting on the other arm. This darker value mixture is yellow umber, raw umber, burnt umber, and maybe a little bit of radiant, maybe a little bit of cat orange. So again, I'm adding in that darker value and then the lighter value and then the mid-tone, and then I'm blending them together, maybe adding in a couple more values in between, a couple more colors, and then you'll see later in the video, if I remember to include it, I added an even lighter yellow for the light most part of her arm, the left part. And again, you'll see very soon on these hands, I'm just getting rid of the orange and pinkish part of the hand, bringing in some more of the yellow ochre color, and fixing some of the shadows, bringing in some more form onto the curvature of her knuckles. I'm planning on sprucing up that palette diagram I showed in the beginning so you can reference it yourself and download it and learn how to mix and maybe have some reference while you're painting so you're not lost. I also plan on offering a pack of PDFs that you can purchase for really low cost, and that will explain how to color mix, why I choose the colors that I do, how colors function, what colors turn cool, what colors shift a little more warm. All the information will be included for a very low price on my Ko-Fi.